In the yet another session, the fourth session of the day, fifth session of the day. This is by Nanduri Srinivas. I think he was not well, but he's nice that he's joined us. And it is on the future of freight operations in India. The earlier session was on the future of passenger rolling stock in India. This is about the future of freight operations in India. Nanduri's session will be moderated by Atulya Sinha. Atulya Sinha, as you know, is a railway person and also a very committed rail enthusiast. At present, he is the additional general manager of the Southeastern Railway, and he's a mechanical and a production engineer with a postgraduate diploma in management, and has worked in various capacities and knows a lot about the railway working. And a very active member of the RES. I would now hand over to Atulya to carry on with this session. And best of luck this time. Let there be no communication failure.
Thank you, Mr. Manoj Pandey. Next speaker of the day is Mr. Nanduri Srinivas, a career railwayman and a distinguished member of the Indian Railway Traffic Service, or IRTS. On a personal note, Mr. Srinivas and I were colleagues in Vijayawada division 30 years ago. And although I have not had a chance to interact with him since then, this forum is a good opportunity for me to reconnect with an old friend. Mr. Srinivas has worked as Chief Passenger Traffic Manager in Southwestern Railway. Later, he has been with NTPC and Singareni Collieries. He has been in their traffic departments. Presently, he occupies the very important position of Director Operations and Business Development in the Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited, also known as DFCCIL. This corporation is engaged in building freight corridors exclusively for freight. This is a new concept for India, and it's going to be a paradigm shift in freight operations in the country once these corridors are fully operational. Today, Mr. Srinivas will be giving us an overview of the project. He'll be telling us about its present status. He will talk about business perspectives, future plans, and he will share his views on the changes which will take place once these corridors are fully operational. Mr. Nanduri Srinivas.
Good afternoon, everybody. I see a lot of respected senior officers whom I have worked with, under whom I have learned my lessons and started my career. So good afternoon, everybody. Nice of you, Sinhaji. It was nice remembering Vijayawada days. Youngsters, as youngsters, we interacted. In fact, succeeding Mr. Mani as a speaker is a very difficult task, because he is a very nice presenter and emotionally involved, and practically demonstrated it is possible to take a bull by horns and do the things. So when he has explained things and with this very poetic style and all that, mine is going to be cut and dry. So I hope all will bear with me. People must have had a cup of tea, so I think it's okay. So I think we can start. Basically, I'll be just going through the presentation, then we can come to the discussion part of it, where I'm sure that there will be many questions and there will be many things which I can answer. And only limitation, as Mr. Mani has said, having retired, he can be very vocal about certain things. So I'll try to answer some of the questions. I know they are going to be very emotional as well as serious questions about the way we function. So can we have the presentation? I think we can start that. Mr. Jayal Singh is doing that, is it? You are on the mute.
Mr. Jayal Singh will be operating.
Yeah, if we can start off, yeah. Yeah. Next slide. This is more of a welcome. What exactly is the genesis of the dedicated freight corridor project? This is what is, why did we think of dedicated freight corridor at all? Why not a coaching corridor? Why not a sort of a high-speed corridor, which is coming now? But in 2006, when people have made some 2004 and all that, they said the best way is existing coaching corridor, existing station platforms are all amenable to the existing model, existing passengers. We can't take them away. Instead, put the through run of freight traffic so that let's have a dedicated freight corridor which will offload the entire freight trains. Next slide. There was a basic thing, the bread and butter of Indian Railways has been the freight transport, which is dwindling to the extent of 36%. This is 2018. Now, compared to that, in the other countries, it is almost 47, 48%. So if you go through that, National Rail Plan also is talking about increasing the model rail share. Why we should increase the model rail share? All of you know it is the logistically cheapest option available, but it has not been favored by people because of various reasons. Next. Logistics cost in India is about 14.4% of GDP, whereas compared to the advanced economies, it is about 8.5 to 8%. We are losing about $45 billion each year because of the logistics infrastructure deficiencies. And in logistics performance index, we are ranking very low. Whereas, next slide, we go into the model share also, it is dropping over the years. Now this is 2015, 16, 41, 2018, 19, it has come to 36%. And India, having the fourth largest rail network, is ranking almost 40th, 44th in logistics performance index, is looking very sad about it. And our logistics costs are always talked about as being higher and as being disadvantageous. So if we can make the freight traffic and meet the demand, next slide, then we can probably increase. If you look at this, we are the fourth largest, but we are ranking very low in terms of the logistics. Next. The main reason for this has been the golden quadrilaterals, where 58% of the freight traffic moves and 52% of the passenger traffic moves, but it is only 16% of the route kilometers. Similarly, even in the road, the national highways along this corridor, they take about 40% of the road freight. Now, this congestion has caused unmet demand and a lot of delays which have happened because of this, because there is no other way of moving our freight in the routes which are connected to this golden quadrilateral. Next. Economic survey has brought out very important factor. On account of the several backward and forward linkages, investments when they are made in railways, if a 1 rupee investment is made, investment would increase the economy-wide output by about 5 rupees. So 1:5 times this repayment of dividends is there. So it was brought in at that time that let us put heavy infrastructural augmentation in railways. That's how the DFCs has originated. Next. Now, why DFC? Number one, faster and assured way and safer and convenient, environmentally superior and low social cost, cheaper and ease of doing business. Now we combined everything and made it into DFC. Next. The biggest thing which we wanted to do is increase the modal share of railways by providing customized logistics services, create additional rail infrastructure so that it will be ready to meet the growing transport demand. What we need to do is reduction in the unit cost of transportation by speeding up of the freight operations and also bringing in higher productivity. Next. We have also kept in focused approach for both passenger and freight business of railways. So segregation of the freight infrastructure would result in this. Then timetable services, it's the myth normally, or normally the talk associated is that the goods train is always slow, unfocused, and nobody bothers about it, and nobody cares about it. That has to change. The opinions associated with goods train operations have to be changed by bringing in certain freight trains with timetabled and guaranteed transit times. We are also looking at introduction of high-end technology and IT packaging of the freight services. Now, what will be doing in doing all these things? What will be the result? There will be heavy employment generation and skill upgradation. In addition, it will also result in decongestion of the major highways. Next. DFC, as it was envisaged, was basically about 2,843 kilometers. I am excluding the PPP portion between Sonnagar-Dankuni part. It's totally automatic block signaling, except one small stretch between Ludhiana to Dadri, Khurja. Rest of the things is 2 into 25 kV automatic, electrified automatic section. We have the entire 2,843 kilometers. We have done land acquisition of 10,619 hectares. This gigantic work involves creating almost about 596 major bridges, 300 plus ROBs, 555 RUBs, 49 rail flyovers, and 125 stations. Now, earthwork involved is almost 2,371 lakh cubic meters. Now, this is a major challenge because nobody will be allowing the earth to be carted off. Now, with the way the trains are, with the way the rail works are happening, doubling, and dedicated freight corridor, now high-speed corridor, third line, fourth line in other railways. So there is a huge demand for earthwork which is happening and all other components. In all these things, we faced a big challenge in creating this infrastructure. We have in EDFC 7 project centers and WDFC also 7 project centers for construction phase. Next. Now, a general outline of the eastern and western dedicated freight corridors. Eastern corridor from Sonewal to Dankuni. Between Sonnagar and Dankuni, it is going to be the PPP project, which is going to come up under a public-private partnership. And JNPT to Dadri is the western corridor. Now, the phases in this, you just go ahead. Yeah. We have already commissioned 641 kilometers in western dedicated freight corridor, that is from New Rewari to Palanpur. Now, in the eastern dedicated freight corridor, Khurja Bhaupur section has been 331 kilometers has been commissioned. Now, if you look at this, these are the things which have been commissioned in the last 1 year. And we have learned valuable lessons and shown what operational performance can improve in the dedicated freight corridor. Next. This is the EDFC alignment of line diagram. As I said, we will be starting with Sonewal in Punjab. These are the sections. The green one is the one which is commissioned already. The moment we commission this Bhaupur to Prayagraj, Prayagraj to DDU, and connect this Khurja Dadri and Dadri to Rewari in western, we will be completing about 40% of the project work. But basically, that will ease out the entire accessibility of UP hinterlands to our western ports. Next slide, please. In EDFC, this is the salient features I have just given. The length is about 1,337 kilometers. What we have done is maximum about 165 ROBs and 212 RUBs we have done. Rail flyovers are about 22. Stations are 78 here, because in section between Khurja to Sonewal, it is absolute block system with single line, almost parallel to Indian Railways, but stations of our own. So the number of stations are more there. Land acquisition has been about 4,619 hectares. Mostly it has been adjoining Indian Railways, but some parts we have detoured. We have 7 project centers. Next, please. What we have done is 2 segments, one electrified double line segment, and that is up to Khurja, single line track segment up to 447 kilometers between Ludhiana to Khurja, Dadri. Now, because of the non-availability of space among the existing corridor, particularly important centers, we have taken detours, particularly in Deen Dayal Upadhyay Junction, Prayagraj, Kanpur, Firozabad, Tundla, and we have put detours, and we have taken our new stations just outside these stations, so that we will be available for all freight operations, including the freight developments and development of any freight terminals in those areas outside the cities, so that the traffic congestion associated with the major centers of population will not be hampering our operations. Next. In EDFC, this is a distribution of across the states. Next, please. Now it will be centering, EDFC will be catering to the number of traffic streams, particularly the major part which we have looked at is coal moving from the eastern part to the upcountry, that is most UP as well as Rajasthan and Punjab. This section will be carrying the coal to that from the eastern part of it, both from CCL, BCCL, ECL and NCL to northern states, and steel and steel products also. In return direction, it will be food grains, fertilizers, limestone and other minerals going to the industrial centers. However, in the entire sector, it was not envisaged, again I'm reinforcing here, it was not envisaged at any point of time that there will be a double stack movement, double stack container movement. Containerization was not on the anvil in the EDFC. So EDFC has gone in for a traditional OHE system with 5.1 meter clearances. We have seen a report has been made, a study has been made. It is showing about 116 million tons of traffic will be available, and which has borne fruit like this as per the projections. Next. In Western DFC, we have a 1506 kilometers, and of course, as I said, many of the bridges have come, about 383, ROBs are about 138, RUBs are many here, 343, rail flyovers are 27, stations are 47 in this 1506 kilometers. So we have more of the stations spacing, intersectional spacing is more in WDFC. Almost stations are at about 30 plus kilometers. Very peculiar thing is, we have created the stations in such a way that there will be uninterrupted, unfettered runs to the trains without any level crossing gates, without any obstructions. But now the another feature which I will be explaining to you later in operational difficulty is that when the train is running, is the rolling stock being observed? What sort of difficulties are we facing? That's one I'll mark it for later discussion. Next, please. These are the states in which Western DFC is passing through. It is a totally double line electrified 2 into 25 kilometers, 2 into 25 kilowatt AC from JNPT to Dadri. We have a detour at Vadodara, Ahmedabad area, and the major part is the Gujarat ports which are getting connected at Palanpur. We have got future ports coming up. They will also be coupled. Now, the biggest challenge will be how we will be accessing Hazira as well as new Vadhavan port which are coming up. Now, this Western DFC is proposed to join Eastern Corridor at Dadri. Once this joining happens, we will be getting the entire Eastern UP and western UP and the interior hinterland of Uttar Pradesh connected to the western ports, and the EXIM traffic will get a boost because there is a lot of products which are awaiting or finding it difficult for export, which will be useful, which will be finding it easier to get into the EXIM stream. Next slide. These are the important milestones for us. Basically, on 29th December 2020, EDFC segment, that is Kanpur to Khurja, that Bhavpur to Khurja, New Bhavpur to New Khurja, has been inaugurated by the Honorable Prime Minister. And on 7th June, we have inaugurated, or he has inaugurated this section between New Rewadi to Madar. And in June, we have commissioned that Madar to Palanpur section. So altogether, we have got New Rewadi to New Palanpur section operational from June 21. Next slide. This is the project status. I will be just explaining this. The green portion is the one which is already commissioned, that is Bhavpur to Khurja, as well as New Rewadi to Palanpur. Next, these entire stretches which we have already done that, and the works are under progress. A yellow portion indicates commissioning by March 22. Next, you can just go on pressing, because then it will be showing that the commissioning phases. DDU Sonnagar is also getting commissioned. We have done the loco trial on 31/3, but ROB works are getting completed. We are just commissioning the Ruma Shujatpur trials have already completed, and we are just awaiting 1 or 2 small LC gates interlocking. So once that is done, then that will be totally done. And next we are looking at Palanpur Mehsana to Sanand, and then Sanand to JNPT, Makarpura and Makarpura to JNPT. This side we will be looking at connecting Rewadi to Dadri. That is going to be our major activity which is going to come through. And once Khurja Dadri is held up because of a little bit of land acquisition, that is now after the elections, we are promised that that land acquisition will be done. Then Khurja Dadri will be done in 2 months period. Khurja to Ludhiana is expected to be commissioned by, we are putting the target as June, but it may be slightly overstretching. In the eastern sector, we will be looking at completing that DDU to Sonnagar, DDU to Chunar, and Chunar to Karchana and Prayagraj. This entire thing, we hope we will be able to do this in this financial year. Next, please. We are actually, the commissioning of this entire thing has gone into a haywire because of 2 stretches of this COVID, and the project is into doldrums because of this COVID, as well as the contractors have slightly let us down. Now, the total estimated cost as far as the project is concerned is about 81,459 crores. This was in 2015. Now it is revised. It has gone up to 1,24,000 crores because of the land part has increased by about 13,000 crores. And in addition, there is variation which has come up. It has gone into hard and soft cost, both coming to 1 lakh. So we are now touching 1,25,000 crore approximately. We have done about 80,620 crores of capex up to 3110. Now our financial progress has been about 78%. In the eastern sector, we have taken a loan from the World Bank about 12,453 crores, and Indian Railway has given the entire equity for DDU Sonnagar about 3,679 crores. Dankuni Sonnagar, estimated to be about 15,900 crores, will be through PPP mode. In the western corridor, Dadri to JNPT, phase 1 and 2, we have done with JICA funding about 38,722 crores. Next. We have done the entire track linking of about 466 kilometers, about 3,787 is the cumulative progress. OHE wiring is about 266 kilometers. Major works, bridges, particularly 329 bridges have been completed out of 540, that is about 61%. RUBs and ROBs, which though we want to do it associated with the state governments, land acquisition and approach roads, everything, completion is a huge task. So RUBs we have done about 72%, ROBs only 37%. So we are still completing ROBs work. Now that means the level crossing gates are retained under interlocking only. We have awarded almost all the contracts and about 78% of the progress has happened. Next, please. Now, if you look at this section-wise progress, Rewari, Palanpur is completed. Now, rest of the things we have put, the final completion target we are keeping at June 22. But I think it's a question everybody will ask me, is it possible? I'll say there will be some overlap. We may extend, but we are hopeful that we will be completing by December or maximum in this financial year. Next slide, please. In the brief period, in the brief period, we have run the trains and operational efficiency, which we have run. We have run about 23,350 kilometer trains so far up to day before yesterday, I would say. Current average of trains is about 100, 31 per day on EDFC and about 75 per day on WDFC. We are almost clocking about 20 billion GTKMs and 1 billion GTKMs every 13 days. The redeeming feature or the proud moment for us is to talk about the average speeds. Box and HL trains, empty rake, 3 trains have gone on the same day with 99 plus average speed. That means touching at New Khurja and handing over at New Bhavpur, the distance divided by the time they have spent has resulted in 99 plus. And the average speeds during January 2022 for EDFC was 62 kilometers and WDFC is 54 kilometers. Now, compared to that normal speeds recorded in Indian Railways, this is going to be a huge, huge benefit for us. Now, maximum number of trains we have run, and in fact, we have started running the electrified traction in the newly converted, newly electrified Northwestern Railway adjoining sections. That is from CMLK siding of New Ateli to Palanpur. We have run the electric train in less than 10 hours. That is almost 629 kilometers in less than 20 hours, less than 10 hours. Now, we are now running from Ateli to New Palanpur, 629 kilometers with single set of crew in less than 8 hours of train crew run. We have also achieved 50 trains interchange at Palanpur, which nobody predicted it will be possible. Because I remember when we were asking about opening up at Palanpur without the flyover, with surface crossing at Karjoda, everybody said that we can't run more than 15 trains each way. Now we have been touching 50 trains at Palanpur. That's a redeeming thing because even in Northwestern Railway finds it much easier to run off these trains via DFC. Next slide, please. This is basically number of trains and GTKMs billions. Next. We have been following a particular concept called sectional availability. It is a forerunner for our PPP section evaluation. What we do is, in a day of 24 hours, we are following corridor block on a sacrosanct basis. So we are expecting our service engineers to make the system available for 20 hours and evaluate their performance based on that. Weekly, in fact daily, but average is done on weekly basis. We are measuring up the efficiency of each section which is opened. Western DFC, we have taken it into 3 sections. That is New Palanpur to New Marwad, New Marwad to New Fulera, New Fulera to New Rewari. We are measuring up the sectional availability. Now, what do you do with sectional availability? Sectional availability is the time it is available apart from if there is anything available with the crew, problem with the crew, or problem with, it's basically we are thinking that the CGM's unit will be considered as a concessionaire. Now CGM's unit has to keep that system available. So we have been checking up, and this is how CGMs have to defend themselves. Why did he make it 80% available, 90% available in the week? The objective is in that 4 hours corridor block, please maintain your track so that 20 hours I should be left to run my trains without any hindrance. It is being done, and that is how we are evaluating the sectional availability. This is the forerunner to our PPP section, where the payment will be based on availability performance. Next. Now, the slight impact of our operational efficiency. Concur, Container Corporation, Katua's terminal, there is a huge 25% increase in the traffic. The cement sidings connected to us, particularly Ultratech and JK Lakshmi, have recorded double-digit growth, 29 and 45% respectively. Interchange at various points has increased tremendously, for 15% increase in Palanpur section, Palanpur area, and about 8% at Rewari. Now, this is possible because now the trains can just flow without any problem. But then they have to come from the Indian Railway system. So Indian Railways, that feeder routes, once they develop, then only it is possible to reap the full benefits of the DFC. Now DFC is operating in isolation. Bhaupur Khurja is operating in isolation, and trains have to be fed at Bhaupur and at Khurja, and received also at Bhaupur and at Khurja. Similarly at Palanpur, at Rewari. So there is a little bit, in spite of your stomach is very big, but your mouth is still constricted. Next slide. Biggest thing which we could take out is the transit time, particularly the sidings connected. CMLK was an important part for us, because at Ateli, that is the biggest terminal of Container Corporation which is available. We checked up, their average rakes have gone up and transit time has come down. So they have not added any extra rakes, but with the existing rakes, they have improved and the turnaround has been made possible. Particularly the port. Particularly Pipava, there is a reduction of almost 10 hours from CMLK. Now, we have also seen for other customers, Gadihasuru. Gadihasuru has been very happy to say that their transit time to Mundra port has dropped by about 6 hours overall. Same with Pipava. But Pipava, in return, they are doing a sort of double stack handling at Virangam, so that number has increased. Next. On other part, when we are looking at NCR and NWR, we just said what has been the impact of DFC. We are now running about 10,000 trains on Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor. Drastic improvement is there in the speeds over NCR. Same with NWR. The container trains handled at CMLK have improved by about 38%. And this improved turnaround has resulted in the average speeds also. Before DFC, it was 23 kilometers per hour in NWR. Now, current month is about 45 to 46 kilometers per hour in NWR. That is because the section has been decongested and there are lesser number of trains. The trains which are available are running at faster speeds. And loading has also increased because of the faster speeds, they are able to feed those things much better and in time. Next. So I will just cap here that capacity augmentation, yes, in the sections which we have commissioned, we are able to show at 120 kilometers, 20 trains each side possible. That is the line capacity available. Path freedom, yes, you just bring the train and it will be available. It can go at the speeds which have been given. In fact, we have been voicing this, that there shall be uniform speeds, but Indian Railways still gives the stocks Some trains are fit at 45 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 60, 75, 90, and 100. We are able to run with all these things and by putting the paths. Third, safety. We have the modern asset management system. Our asset management is on a preventive basis, and by following a 4 hours corridor blocks, we are following a maintenance system in such a way that we will not leave anything to the chance. We are going every day, each and every inch of the track is being watched, and each and every train which is going through is now going to be examined with us. I'm not talking about train examination. I'm saying it will be viewed by us, it will be watched by us and monitored by us. This, and provided with the timetabling of our freight trains, we have got a transit assurance coming in. Now, the just-in-time concept will be a reality rather than a cliche because of us. Many of you are aware that sometime in 2021, we had a coal crisis. Dadri plant, as well as the plants in Rajasthan, whatever coal rakes have been taken over from Allahabad side. In fact, it used to be a problem. In eastern side, it used to be a minimum of 4 to 5 days transit time for them to reach the power plants. It has come in 1.5 days. The biggest beneficiary has been the Dadri plant, which fed the National Capital Region, and the Rajasthan and the Haryana power plants, which have received the coal. They were surprised to receive from NCL, the rake is loaded, and in 2 days' time, the rake has reached, reducing the transit time by half. The average freight transit time for freight express trains is less than 11 hours against the target time of 12 hours. And the recent addition is the milk tankers, which have been moving from Palanpur to Delhi capital area. They were taking almost 18 hours. In our section, Palanpur to Rewadi, in Palanpur to Ateli, where we have handed over, this 640 kilometers has been covered in 7 hours over WDFC. So we are almost running them at 90 kilometers average speed. We will be providing that sort of assurance. When we started operations in July, when we talked about this transit assurances, now the voicing of this particular thing has resulted in Railway Board coming out with a transit assurance scheme for the entire EXIM traffic. Next, please. Sinaji, I'll cover up in next 5-10 minutes, okay? Yeah. Business development part, I'll just rush through. Next. We have we have floated some private freight terminals, because the basic problem which is coming is there were many flip-flops which have happened in Indian Railways about whether DFC should establish private freight terminals, or whether DFC should do commercial working, or it should be only line capacity augmentation. During that flip-flop, a lot of delay has taken place. So last year we have done an RFP for private freight terminals. About 14 locations have been awarded to 3 firms. We have also simultaneously notified 27 stations, and the iconic trucks on train, the concept has been introduced from New Rewadi to New Palanpur. About 150 rakes have been loaded. We are also looking at commissioning of the mini PFTs, particularly Swaroopganj has already commissioned, which is doing almost 3 rakes per day. Next, please. We are now looking at these 3 agencies, SKN Haryana City Gas, Adani Ports, and International Cargo Terminals and Infrastructure. These are developing the 14 locations awarded. We are looking at their target date of completion as March 2024. Next. We are developing the goods sheds under 2 new schemes. One is Indian Railway policy of goods shed development with public-private partnership. Second is under the Gati Shakti cargo terminal policy. So these 2 schemes we are putting it and allowing the stations to be developed as goods sheds. Now we have already started loading from 9 goods sheds and 1 PFT. Now we are reviewing that facilities provided in the other goods sheds and to be done with ourselves, are to be done under private participation. We are just going ahead and doing it. We have been asked to be on hold because there is a cabinet note which is getting finalized. So we just withheld our RFP, which was about to be released. We have also got World Bank aid for developing the infrastructure. So that is also on the progress. Next. This is the terminal development approach we are doing under Gati Shakti cargo terminal policy. Then we are also developing New Kanpur, New Prithla, Rewari and Sanand under our own, with our own land being provided. So this will be on BOT model through PPP model. Next. This is what I called about trucks on train service. Basically, took a lot of convincing for me to go and request. Konkan Railway has been putting this in practice for quite some time. But when we said that it is possible to do it in Western DFC, first of all, rejection. This is not a traffic to be considered. And hardcore operations people, it is very difficult that BR and rake can be spared for anything other than iron and steel. So we had a lot of discussions. Then I'll just deviate, I'll just say this. The average revenue earned by a BR and rake for steel commodity, Sinaji, you are from Southeastern Railway who handles major Southeast steel progress. The average revenue from the BR and rake per day has been about 5 lakhs. So I requested Railway Board, please look at my proposal. When I am talking about this trucks on train, I will be able to give you 15 lakhs per day. So please allow me to start this service. So reluctantly, one rake has come to us, and we did a lot of trials and modifications. We had a little bit of problem from the entire modifications to be undertaken. A lot of this thing, because mechanical directorate has given half-hearted approval, operations department has given half-hearted approval, with a lot of modifications which we needed to get it done. We have been doing these trucks on train. What is the significant feature which we take it as this thing is that what did we save? We saved precious diesel for the country. We saved the carbon emissions. We estimate about 1.85 million tons of carbon dioxide has been saved as of today. Now, we have been earning money. At the same time, we have been taking off these trucks off the roads. So we have decongested the major highways. So if you look at the social service as well as the revenue part of it, this is what we look at as the service which can be done, and railway will make a sort of a model shift. It will achieve certain things like B2B, that is door-to-door delivery, which is going to be a real feature of this service. Next, please. After we introduced, we have found these challenges. There is an absence of specialized wagon for trucks on train service, which was called RORO earlier. Then mechanical department with the RDSO THAPA has put some 48 tons limitation on the trucks that can be carried. Whereas in the practical field, the trucks are going with 57 tons. Now, your wagon carrying capacity speaks of about 65 tons or 60 tons, but you are now limiting it to 48. So we have said we will try doing it by doing whatever modifications. Thankfully, with in-house modifications, we have been running these trains with 57 tons trucks on going with them. But the limitation is the longer trucks. The trucks are having 52 feet capacity length, but these iron wagons are 13 meters. So we are now facing a difficulty of longer trucks. So we tried to reason out that can we put 2 trucks on 3 wagons, but the fear of parting has prevented us. So we need to find a solution for this sort of thing. Then the other thing is compulsion to carry the prime mover has left us with carrying the truck in tow instead of the carrier only, that container only. Second, we have somehow put it in Konkan Railway that there is a height restriction on the truck of 3.5 meters. Whereas in actual field, it is about 4 meters truck, 4.5 meters truck. So the length, the height of the consignment is coming to almost 5.5 meters, which is possible in WDFC, but it is not covered under existing Indian Railway rules. So we are still bothered with our railway baggage. We are having a restriction, speed restriction of 65 kilometers. Now, future routes for the trucks on train have already been identified. These are the demands which have come to us, that please start the services in these routes. Now, the explosion of this trucks on train has come because the customers are finding it is cheaper and logistically superior to just jump on to the trains, take the lift. So leave out the ego problem. Am I the lift service here? But if you can look at the truck as a transport and look at it, that is the revenue proposition. For business, the hardcore business, that railwayman has to leave, that no, my wagon has to be loaded. That loading of truck is also a business. So these are the routes which are there, and we are now exploding with the service requirements. We are now going to start services in all these routes with this. Next. We are now putting certain strategies, that is ensuring the wagon availability for originating traffic and volume discounts. We have one-to-one contracts with most of these people. We are now going ahead and discussing with them and trying to work out as their logistics partner. Our idea is we should give them a logistics solution which will be a win-win situation. We are now going in for cargo consolidation. Our empanelment of the first line service providers for cargo consolidation is just coming up, and we will be doing that cargo consolidation. Third, we are now going ahead for timetabled and reliable transit times. Now that is going to be our key point where we can attract high-speed trains into this sector. Other thing is we have developed our own IT system which will give the entire information about the cargo movement to the customers through real-time tracking, and the entire information will be given to them dynamically. Next. We are also looking at bringing in swab bodies, road railers, and domestic containers. In fact, the triple stack containers with high cube, this cube containers is happening on DFC. The oscillation trials are going on in DFC, which will be paving way for attracting high quality white goods and high-tech machinery, which is going from the port to the port. Now, this is also going to bring in special wagons, particularly the steel coil wagons, which are 25-ton axle load, and the auto carriers. They are going to come up in our sector. What is going to be the interesting thing is development of the infrastructure, particularly the greenfield and brownfield. Land associated problems have been preventing it. We have gone ahead, we have brought a small revolution that anybody who is interested in taking land outside and looking for connectivity, we will help the connectivity part of it by acquiring land as a special railway project and under the permission, with the permission of the railway board. Railway board has already approved it. So that has been happening. Connectivity and feeder upgradation. Now this is going to be the most critical part of it. Feeder routes are the ones which have to feed traffic to DFCs and utilize. These have to come up with the DFC specification so that they are under development. All these solutions, everything will happen with the liberalization and modification of IR freight marketing policies. Now, this is the crux of the issue. This is where our advocacy is going on, and we keep having a lot of resistance there because our scale is only 12 inches. If I want 6 inches scale, I won't break it. So that's I cannot sum it to more than enough, more than that. Next, please. We are now, as I said, we are now going in for the tailor-make solutions for many of the customers, and we are signing many contracts and MOUs with the one-to-one basis. The idea is to synergize the entire system and attain synchromodality. What we are looking at is the changes in ideology, like trucks on train, changes in road railers, But overall, the win-win solution is the one which matters. Both the customer has to gain in terms of the logistics, and if we tell them that we are going to be speedier, he'll say, so what? I have already built time into my contracts. What more are you going to give me? So we are going to add, yes, it is going to be cheaper to you. It is going to be ease of doing business, that you don't need to beg anybody. We'll come to you and we will be your logistics partner. So in that mode, when we went, people have been happy so far. We hope as we expand into our further feature areas, we'll be able to generate much more traffic. Next, please. We have been developing these MMLPs. What we are looking at is new wagons. Freight train operators are going to come in. Logistics manager, we are developing that first lines and last line people. What we are looking at is small pallets and less than wagon load movements. They will be aggregated. E-commerce tie-ups. And we have also tied up with maintenance with our machines. And we have just branched off and started reaping available land bank for developing solar, wind and renewable energy sources. We will be making that as a sustainable revenue source for the DFC. Next. Of course, this is new good sheds. Next.
Mr. Srinivas, I'll request you to wind up quickly.
So that's all.
Time for questions.
Yes.
There are a number of questions waiting for you.
Yes. I think this is okay. Traffic cost is going to be much less. It's okay. Next, we'll go ahead. Some of the initiatives, okay, that's okay. This is already spoken to. Yes, go ahead. I will only say next slide. Go to the next slide. The traffic potential, this is the dedicated freight information system. It's a totally dedicated in-house IT system which we have developed it because the promised things did not materialize. The TMS or that is from the vendors has not materialized. And we have not built any infrastructure to bring in FOIs or anything. So we just developed with in-house thing called DFIS, which is the ultimate version wherein which will it's a database amenable to shake hands with all future IT developments. And this is what we can do it. With this, we are developing a cargo module, which will be helping us to develop a door-to-door service for all Indian Railways. Okay, next. I have basically major challenges, land acquisition, utility shifting. Everybody wants that utility shifting, lump something onto DFC. Even in fact, the yards which are getting connected, their CTR also to be done by DFC account. So the project cost got escalated because of such things. Some of the contractual issues, slack progress of Tata and L&T, very big contractors, their progress is slack. Next. Some of the critical issues, land acquisition mostly. Next. Zonal railways, yes, because they wanted their pound of flesh. Next. Future corridors, this is what is going to happen. I'm only just mentioning that this is the face of the new freight railway 10 years from now. The entire country will be ringed with the freight corridors, and that will be the face of the railways. The entire feeder routes will be feeding to the dedicated freight corridors, and freight will be moving on the DFCs. Next. Immediate attention is what is required. We will be doing certain things, and then we are still bogged by the CRS rule that every wagon which has to increase its speed, we have to go to CRS. And CRS says you have not taken the approval of track with me, so you send the track list, then we'll talk about it. So this is a chicken and egg theory. Do we need to go to CRS? Railway board has to do this. Next. We require the assistance of the railways. Basically, DFCCIL has to give us our this entire thing which we are looking at. We say that the DFCCIL has been given the railway administration status. Please treat like a zonal railway and implement the commercial policies on a uniform basis. We have said that this trucks on train should be listed as a commodity in LSFTO policy. BRN rake should come for TOT service. Now we are going in for the private participation. Of course, development of DFC freight terminals. Again, we have to go to the railway board. Railway board says that, sorry, you can't lease out land. So that is being sorted out. Of course, FOIS routes are also not defined. We are just doing it. Next, one more minute, Sinaji. This is what we are looking at. From the time of commissioning, in 2 years' time, we will be developing additional traffic of about 163 million tons. In that, new terminals are going to give about 40.6 million tons. But the existing terminals adjoining the DFCs will be developing, will be giving additional of 122 million tons because of the feeder routes and because of the connectivities. Now, this traffic is the one which we will be looking at in developing, not the diversion of the existing Indian Railway traffic. Next. This is how we analyzed the existing rakes which are getting loaded by the adjoining sections. This is going to increase tremendously. From the time we have operated, this is the improvement which we have shown. Next. Same with eastern sector. Next. Upgradation feeder routes have to be completed. It's very slack. Progress is very slack. Next. Way forward. Number one, we said we are going to be open for new ideas for improving quality services, innovative practices, a lot of business opportunities. Be aware that a lot of new business avenues, opportunities exist. Be committed for superior and safer and environmentally safe practices for rail transport. We are looking at saving so much of carbon emissions for the next 30 years. Ultimately, some of the traffic getting realized depends on the infrastructure and as well as the policy making of the Indian Railways. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Srinivas, for a very, very illuminating presentation. There have been a lot of questions and comments. Let me read out one comment from Mr. Himkar Tata, who was, as you remember, our colleague, our senior colleague at Vijayawada. He says, thank you very much, Mr. Srinivas, for your well-researched talk, laden with lots of facts and figures. You have updated us comprehensively on the progress achieved. We now feel progressively optimistic about DDF this year and so on. And he says, wishing you all success in meeting your deadlines. So I thought I should share this with you. There have been a number of questions. But before we come to the questions, let me also congratulate you and let me share with you my feeling as you were speaking. I was thinking of the dreams which we had, a whole generation of railwaymen, the dreams which we had for freight movement. Those dreams are getting realized through this DFC. Now, this is very, very positive.
I'll only just interject. When I broke the news of 99 kmph average speed to the then CRB, Sumit Sharma, he said that way it is a reality that you will be able to take from Mughal Sarai to Ghaziabad in one crew set.
Yes,
I said yes. I said yes.
So as I said, it is a dream.
Yes.
And now the other dream which you are talking of realizing is timetable goods trains.
Yes.
This is another thing which a whole generation has been talking about. Then corridor blocks, when you talk of 20 hours availability and 4 hours maintenance at a consolidated level, that would be another great achievement, which we have not been able to do in our existing system. Of course, there are constraints. You have talked about the interchange issues. Then you have talked about the feeder routes. You have talked about the rules which are binding you. You have talked about the difficulties in land acquisition. No doubt all these problems are there. But we have a lot of hopes and a lot of dreams which will get fulfilled through this freight corridor. Thank you very much for sharing this. Now, there are some questions about the routes, which I think we will not touch upon right now because we are very much short of time. One interesting question has come from Mr. Jaydeep Datta, He says, what about the accidents on EDFC? And there must be restriction on particular type of rolling stock. And will you use both types of traction? Now, could you please tell us about the safety performance?
We had two accidents in Eastern DFC. One is because of the shift of the consignment, particularly the slabs which have shifted. Because of that load shifting, there was an accident, which was a clear proof. Second one, the cause could not be established, but we have seen that the track was not at fault.
Right.
So these are the two which we had, but other than that, we have been maintaining. After this, the biggest problem we are facing is that of the rolling stock of hanging parts, damaging things and causing. So we have introduced various measures like machine vision inspection system, partly hot box detectors, and in fact outsourced staff at various points to keep a monitoring check on the trains which are rolling.
Right. Such systems are going to come on Indian Railways also, and I am glad that you are taking the initiative there. A related question comes from Mr. Ram Mohan, who wants to know about what are the wagon development and safety initiatives which are being taken.
No, the wagon development is again, we don't have a mandate to own any wagons.
Exactly.
It is all going to be Indian Railways. So Indian Railways, whatever 25-ton axle load, BLCs and other high axle load wagons which are coming, they are all going to be new wagons. So their management and this thing is going to be, of course, we will be coming out with problems which we faced. That will help in developing certain policy measures by Indian Railways.
Right. So wagon development is not in your scope.
No.
What about wagon maintenance?
No, we are not maintaining the wagons also.
We are not maintaining the wagons.
No.
And similarly, locomotives will not be either.
Locomotives are also not owned by us, not based on our system. Right. They are going to be from Indian Railways and they will go back to Indian Railways.
So the limitations of rolling stock which are there on Indian Railways will be applicable.
Will be plaguing us more
till we are able to lift these constraints.
Yes.
Mr. Vijay Rana asked about the progress on the heavy haul center at Ghaziabad. Is there any project?
No, nothing as of now. We are starting that as a major training unit first, and then we'll be coming out in future.
Mr. Ram Mohan has another question. He says, as per CMVR, truck height is 4.6 meters. And why are we not doing it here? I think this may not be.
We have kept it. We have not kept any truck height restriction on WDFC. Right. In EDFC, there is a limitation because of the OHE 5.1 meters.
Right. Now, last question is from Mr. S.K. Suri, and that is the question which may have been in the minds of a lot of the audience. He says, when will both the DFCs be fully operational?
Sir, our target time is June 2022. I think today I can tell you with the existing, we have requested that, yes, it will not be possible to do it. We may be overstepping that deadline. We hope to do the entire completion and operation into both Western and Eastern by this financial year.
So in 2023,
you're being over optimistic. You have put across so many constraints in small sections. If you complete 90% or 95% also, it is not good enough. 100% completion by the end of the financial year appears to be too optimistic to my mind.
Sir, it is like this. To JNPT, yes. But majority of the other sections we are going to complete.
No, if you don't go to JNPT, then all the fun is gone. On Western DFC, your bulk traffic will be container traffic. So yes. When do you touch JNPT? Is it 1 year or 2 years or 3 years?
Sir, except we will be completing up to NILJ by March 23. I hope that will be done. But only between NILJ and JNPT, we will have a little bit of difficulty in terms of working in Mumbai. But we hope to complete it, sir. All our efforts are going on there.
By when? Completion of
sir, we hope to complete it by June, sir. June 23.
Thank you.
23.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. Thank you so much. And over to you, Mr. Pandey.
Thank you, Srinivas, and thank you, Atulya, because we are slightly over time now.
Yes, sir.
And again, nice to see you, Srinivas, after a
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.